I'm going to show you how you can find your very first domain name in a really easy way and without wasting much time. Hi, I'm Morris and this is my channel Create Grow Profit. If you're watching this, that means you don't have a domain name yet, and at the end of the video you will know exactly where to find it and how to get it. First, we're going to talk about what kind of domain name you should have in the first place. And if you feel like you don't have any domain name ideas, then I will also show you how you can get a little bit creative and find a unique domain name more easily for yourself. Then once you have found your domain name, I'm going to show you two places where you can register your domain name and buy your hosting. One place is going to be the most cost-effective way to purchase it, meaning you're going to pay one of the lowest prices possible for your domain and hosting. And the other place is going to be a bit more expensive, but you will get more server stability and some additional services. I'm also going to be showing you the price tables of these two places so you can decide for yourself what you want to purchase and where you want to register your domain. And finally, don't worry about memorizing any of these places and links, because I will put all the links in the description below this video. So after you're done watching, you can find all the links right there. So the first question is, what's going to be the name for your new domain? And really, people come into this from two places usually. Either they want to have their personal name as their domain, or they want to create a new brand, a brand name for their domain. For example, in my case, I have bought the domain name creategrowprofit.com. That is considered a brand name because it is brandable. But when I decided to start my coaching and consulting business, I actually wanted to buy the domain name mauricegrand.com, my personal name. However, since that name was already taken, I started brainstorming some brandable names, different names or variations of my names, and that's how I eventually came up with Create Grow Profit. So for you, the first question you have to ask yourself is, do you want to use your personal name for your domain name, or do you want to create a brandable name? If you offer a personal service, if you do one-on-one services especially, or small groups, then there are a lot of advantages to using your personal name as your domain. So whether you're using your personal name or you're trying to invent a new brand name, the process to registering your domain is the exact same way, but this is just a question you have to ask yourself and what kind of name you want to have for your website. Once you have an initial idea for your domain name, go to namecheap.com. This is the page where we're going to check if your domain name is still available or not and how much it's going to cost if it's available. When you land on namecheap.com, make sure that you select the register tab and then type your domain name idea into the search bar. As I've already mentioned, when I decided to start this new business, I wanted to go with mauricegrand.com. So in my case, for example, that would be my very first search. So then I click on search and the page is going to load for a little while. It's going to check the domain names. And as you can see, the page changed. It looks different now than before, but what matters is the very first search result. As you can see here, it says mauricegrand.com taken. When it says taken, that means the domain name is already owned by someone else and you can't register it anymore. There are ways to contact the current owner and ask them if they would be willing to sell it to you, but we're not going to cover that in this video because we just want to keep it very simple and get your domain name and your hosting as fast as possible. Now you might ask yourself, what are all these other options down here below? Our first choice is always a .com domain, but there are other domains with different endings. As you can see below, Namecheap immediately suggests endings like .net, .org, .ai, or .es. You can ignore all these listings below because your goal is really to get a .com domain name. So as I can see that this domain name is taken, now I have to start thinking about variations. I used to be a blogger, so if I wanted to run another blog again, then I could think of maybe mauricegrandblog.com as a variation. Now, if I check for mauricegrandblog.com, we can see it loads again for a little bit, and then we have a new search result. This one would actually be available. When you see this light green check mark here, that's how you know that domain name is available. Now, maybe in your case, if you were running a coaching business, you could, instead of adding the word blog, you could add the word coaching. As an example, with my name, I would change it to mauricegrandcoaching.com. And one more example, if let's say you were in the health niche or you were offering consultations and coaching for health, then maybe you could try the variation of your name and adding the word health at the end to it. Now, if you were going for a brand name, let's check my domain name, creategrowprofit.com. Now, obviously, because I already purchased this domain name, it will show as taken. But what I want to show you is if you have an idea for a brand name and it's already taken, how you can come up with variations that you can check, and maybe one of them is available. And the website I suggest for this is thesaurus.com. And what this website does is it will give you synonyms for words that you're looking for. So for example, let's say you had a brand name idea for coaching. For example, let's say you wanted to be number1coaching.com, then you could come to this website here and search for coaching. And now it will give you a list of synonyms that you can use to spark new domain name ideas, new brand ideas. And if you go down this rabbit hole, then eventually you will find a unique brand name that has not been taken yet and that you can register as your domain. Now let's quickly talk about these two options where you can buy your domain name. As I've mentioned in the beginning of the video, one of the cheapest places where you can buy your domain name and your hosting is on namecheap.com. As you can see here in the example of mauricegrandcoaching.com, this domain name would cost $9 per year. And then every year I have to renew the domain name so that I can stay the owner of it. If I wanted to go with Namecheap, then I would click here on add to cart. At this point, all you're buying is the domain name, but you also need hosting. The domain name is like your address, and the hosting is literally a computer that stands somewhere that saves all the files of your website. And when somebody goes to your address, to your domain name, that computer, that server will show that person your website files so they can see your website. And as you can see here with Namecheap, it already suggests you two hosting options. One is WordPress hosting and one is the generic web hosting. If you know that you're going to run a WordPress site, then you can go with the WordPress hosting. And if you want to upload your own files or create your own website or use a different framework for your website, then you would have to pick the generic web hosting. Personally, I'm a big fan of WordPress sites. All my sites today, they are built with WordPress. So I highly recommend that you pick the WordPress hosting. And as you can see, this will cost you $25 per year. This will put you at a bit less than $35 per year for your domain name and your hosting. And once you've purchased this, then your site will be up and running. $35 per year is very, very cheap. And I actually pay more because I'm with a different provider. I am with HostGator. So I'm with HostGator, and for my domains, I pay around $15 per year. So we saw earlier with Namecheap, the domain name cost around $8 or $9 per year. And with HostGator, I pay $15 per year for my domain name. And I have generic web hosting for which I pay $10 per month. And as you saw earlier, with Namecheap, you could get WordPress hosting for $25 per year. Now, why do I pay so much more? Because in my case, it's like $120 plus $15 for all my hosting and the domain. Why do I pay more and why do I mention this in this video? Well, first of all, I'm a web developer and I have a technical background, so I like to have direct access to the backend. But secondly, and this is also important for you, there are differences in servers, meaning that a good server will load your website faster and your website will be much more stable. This is not really an issue if you don't have a lot of traffic, but if you're also building a blog or trying to generate a lot of traffic from social media, then this becomes important. And the third element is customer support. And I have been with HostGators for over 10 years now, and whatever problem I have 24 hours per day, 7 days per week, I could always contact HostGator, and very often they would manually solve the problem for me, which saves me a lot of time and is a service that I personally appreciate very much. So that's the reason why I don't mind paying more, and you have to decide for yourself what it is that you need for your website and then decide accordingly. If you wanted to go with HostGator, then you would first select your hosting, and as you pay for your hosting package, in the process of selecting your hosting package, you will also select your domain name. And since you've already checked the availability of your domain name on Namecheap, you already know that it will be available when you register it on HostGator. And that is really the final note I want to make about this whole process, is that make sure that you buy your domain name from the host where you're also buying your web hosting. And if you too like these options and you want to implement what you've learned in this video, you will find the links both for Namecheap and for HostGator below this video in the description. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you now understand how you can figure out your domain name, where you can check the availability, how you can register it, and how much it's going to cost you on a yearly basis. There will also be a written summary of this video with screenshots on my blog, creategrowprofit.com. That link will be below this video as well. Thank you so much for watching. If you have any questions, reach out to me, write them in the comments below, and I will see you in the next video.